we talked to you last year when it looked like the murder spike was receding and we were going to have a record downturn in the murder rate last year, and that's exactly what ended up happening, right? And now this year, maybe it seems like we have more good news. First off, what can you tell people just a little bit about yourself, and then give us the update on where we are today?
Yeah, I run a data analytics consulting company that I founded 5 years ago with my partner, Ben. And we provide analytic services to largely in the criminal justice space, but outside of it as well, doing analysis of criminal justice, law enforcement, prosecutor, DA type issues, work with advocacy groups, work with law enforcement, work with prosecutors. So all sorts of different companies and organizations that just sort of need analytical help. So one of the things that we've done is created a year-to-date murder dashboard, which we collect as much publicly available data as possible and put it on the web so that you can see what the trend looks like. It's not right now. I think we're at 215 or 217 cities of data, with murder down just about 20% in that sample. And historically, we can see that if you have a large enough sample of cities, it should be pretty predictive of the national trend. At this point in the year, it's usually off 4 to 6%, a sample of this size. So I wouldn't expect precision from this. But even at this point of the year, it's pretty highly suggestive of a large decline happening in 2024.
Okay, so we're still preliminary here. We're still early in the year. Yeah. It's only April, but the signs are good for the trend that everybody wants to see the murder rate go down, especially after several years of it going up quite a lot, right? And so the early numbers are positive. Can you tell us a little bit about how you collect these numbers exactly? Because obviously people are used to relying on the FBI and their annual crime data report. Now, obviously, you have to wait until well into the next year before you get insights from that. But how do you go about collecting this data, and how close does it get to those FBI numbers in the end?
So it should get pretty close, usually within 1 or 2 percentage points of where the FBI is going to come in. That's where I would expect to be with a sample of this size. The FBI won't publish their 2024 numbers until October 2025. So this is a way of shortcutting that lengthy process to tell us what's happening now. And the way we do it is we go out and we Google it. And you go to different agencies' websites, and you go to a lot of states like Texas will produce the data monthly. And usually 1 or 2 weeks after a month ends, they're publishing data for their state's agencies. So it's not a hugely tedious process, but it allows for really rich insights into what's happening.
Okay, so it's actually fairly similar to how the FBI does it then, because the FBI relies on local law enforcement agencies to report their records to the FBI, right? So, I mean, you don't have maybe the pool of what the FBI does when they ask law enforcement to send records to them, although the FBI is not always getting all the records we'd like to see them get. But yeah, basically you're going out and you're getting what these cities produce and put out and publish every month or however frequently they do it. And that's where it's coming. So this is all official source data.
Yeah, it's all preliminary, but kind of the motto is that perfection is the enemy of good enough. And if we only seek perfection, 1, we're never going to get it. And 2, you lose the ability to understand what's happening as it's happening.
Right. Absolutely. And so you've obviously, this is hundreds of cities. I think you had a little more breakdown beyond that as well. Can you tell us about some of the interesting insights that you've seen in the data so far?
Well, there's reasonably widespread decline, kind of what you would expect from a 20% decline. It's not just New York has seen a 70% decline and no one else has seen any decline. Cities of every size are seeing large declines. There are, I believe, 19 cities that at this point last year had 40 or more murders, and murders down in 16 of them. So the places that have the most murders, tend to have the most murders, are for the most part seeing declines. It's not everywhere. Memphis is about even. Los Angeles is up slightly. Baton Rouge, Louisiana is seeing a large increase. So there are certainly places that are seeing increases and places that are not. But for the most part, the national trend is kind of all going in the same direction.
Okay. So it's not just an outlier large city that happens to be doing well that's pulling the whole average down. It's really something across the board with outliers here or there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, interesting. And so, is that basically what you saw last year as well? And what did last year end up as? How much did the murder rate drop?
Last year in our sample, it was down around 12%. So this isn't quite double that, but it's close to double that. So we would expect from this sample, again, something to change. There's a lot of year left. But for the most part, I would expect a large decline, possibly bigger than last year's decline, to happen this year.
And that would be remarkable, right? Because last year's decline was like a record, wasn't it?
If it's not a record, it's close to it. It's hard to say what the FBI's estimates will come out as, but the largest previous decline was under 10%. It was, I think, 9.1 or 9.6%, somewhere in that range. In 1996. So the previous largest decline was not even double digits. Anything in double digits would be the largest one-year decline ever. And in terms of both the percentage decline and the number of fewer people murdered from one year to the next.
The raw numbers and the percentage. Wow. And you're saying that right now, the 2024 numbers are on track to be like double that, like the decline being twice as good as last year's.
Yeah, so far, again, lots of 7 months left or 8 months left. I don't even know how many months are left. Lots of time left for things to change or things to regress to where that would be more normal historically. But what we've seen is what we've seen so far.